She brought my hand closer to her eyes. Her mouth was open just a little, and my heart started to race. I jerked my hand out of her grip just in time. She smiled and showed me her teeth. "They're beautiful," I said. "Brand new," she said.
For James Tate, comedy and tragedy are inextricably linked within poetry. They appear as dual facets of ordinary life, the mundane and the extraordinary as one. As you'll hear in this recording from February 2003, this is laugh out loud poetry that wanders from the baseball field to the petting zoo and back home. And yet, after the laughter, you'll often find yourself catapulted into quiet, left to consider how this world breaks your heart again and again. Tate's poetry lives in the encounters between opposites, inside and outside, poet and reader. In these poems, or as Tate describes them, quote, "my beloved little billiard balls," we are beckoned into the familiar, only to find how strange it has become to be human. I'm Rebecca Hoogs, the Executive Director of Seattle Arts and Lectures. You're listening to Sal on Air, a collection of talks from the world's best writers from 36 years of Seattle Arts and Lectures. Tate's first major collection, The Lost Pilot, was selected for the Yale Series of Younger Poets in 1967 when he was just 23 and still a graduate student. From there, he went on to publish more than 20 collections that profoundly influenced American poetry until his passing in 2015. Now, in 2023, Echo is publishing a new collected works titled Hell, I Love Everybody, with a foreword by upcoming Sal poet Terrence Hayes. Tate taught at numerous universities, including 5 decades at UMass Amherst. Following the reading, Tate is joined by previous Sal Executive Director Matt Brogan for a conversation in which he discusses with voracious honesty the intrigue of strangers, the need for humor, and what it means to be contemporary. With refreshing clarity, Tate reminds us of how he was a poet who defined himself. In this conversation, we hear him laugh and laugh, a reminder of how much light Tate's poetry has brought to us. This is Sal on Air.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. You almost made me like that guy, you know. I'd like to begin with a poem called Rapture. If you sit here a long time and are real quiet, you just might get to see one of those blue antelope, I said to Cora. I'd do anything to see a blue antelope, she said. I'd take off all my clothes and lie completely still in the grass all day. That's a good idea, I said. Taking off the clothes, I mean, it's more natural. I'd met Cora in the library the night before and had told her about the blue antelope. So we'd made a date to try and see them. We lay naked next to one another for hours. It was a beautiful, sunny day with a breeze that tickled. Finally, Cora whispered into my ear, "My God, I see them. They're so delicate, so graceful. They're like angels, cornflower angels." I looked at Cora. She was disappearing. She was becoming one of them. The next poem is called Memoir of the Hawk. I was sitting on a bench in the park when I saw this large hawk circling overhead. I had my eyes on it when it suddenly swooped down and picked up this little baby out of its carriage and flew away with it. My heart almost stopped beating. I ran over to the mother, who was eyeing a dress in a window. "Ma'am," I stuttered, "that bird just stole your baby." She looked into the carriage and then up at the sky. "Oh, I know that bird. She's a good bird. She just took my baby to play with her babies for a while. She'll bring him back in a short time. My baby loves her babies. But thanks for telling me. By the way, what do you think of this dress? Is it right for me?" I thought of her baby sailing through the sky in the claws of that bird. "Well," I said, "I think the mignonette green captures the amplitude of your inner aviary." "What are you, some kind of loose nutcase? Get out of here before I call the police," she said. This is called the book club. Bobby came home from her book club completely drunk and disheveled. 3 buttons from her blouse were missing, and she had scratches down both cheeks. "Jesus," I said, "what the hell happened to you?" "They all hated that book," she said. "You know, that one that had me crying all last week? About the girl's mother dying and then her baby getting sick and her husband leaving her? They said it was corny, and I just couldn't take it. I couldn't sit there and make fun of that poor woman." "So what happened?" I said. "Well, Irene was laughing, and that's when I got up and slapped her. And she punched me in the gut, and I grabbed her hair and threw her to the floor and kicked her in the face. And then Rosie and Tina and that bitch Sonia from Leverett all jumped on me and punched me 100 times, and I didn't know what was happening." "So when did you get drunk?" I said. "Oh, when it was over, we all went out to Lucky 7 together and laughed about it." "Bunch of tough broads," I said. "Nah, they're all pussycats," she said, looking badly in need of repair. This next one is called The Painter of the Night. Someone called in a report that she had seen a man painting in the dark over by the pond. A police car was dispatched to go investigate. The 2 officers with their big flashlights walked all around the pond, but found nothing suspicious. Hatcher was the younger of the 2, and he said to Johnson, "What do you think he was painting?" Johnson looked bemused and said, "The dark, stupid. What else could he have been painting?" Hatcher, a little hurt, said, "Frogs in the dark, lily pads in the dark, pond in the dark. Just as many things exist in the dark as they do in the light." Johnson paused, exasperated. Then Hatcher added, "I'd like to see them. Hell, I might even like to buy one. Maybe there's more out there than we know." We are the police, after all. We need to know. This is called the eternal ones of the dream. I was walking down this dirt road out in the country. It was a sunny day in early fall. I looked up and saw this donkey pulling a cart coming toward me. There was no driver, nor anyone leading the donkey, so far as I could see. The donkey was just moping along. When we met, the donkey stopped, and I scratched its snout in greeting, and it seemed grateful. It seemed like a very lonely donkey, but what donkey wouldn't feel alone on a road like that? And then it occurred to me to see what, if anything, was in the cart. There was only a black box, or a coffin, about 2 feet long and a foot wide. I started to lift the lid, but then I didn't. I couldn't. I realized that this donkey was on some woeful mission, who knows where, to the ends of the earth. So I gave him an apple, scratched his nose the last time, and waved him on, little man that I was. This is called Boobies of Fernando Poe. I no longer remember why. We stopped at a tag sale, and there was a blender that I was considering. The owner walked up to me, and I asked him if it worked. Sure it works, he said. If it works so good, how come you want to get rid of it, I asked him. He told me they'd got a new one. And I said, why would you get a new one if this one still works? Upgrading, he said. So you think you're too good for this blender? But it's just right for me? Is that it? Listen, buddy, if you don't want the blender, it's fine by me, okay? So you don't want my money. My money's not good enough for you. Just take the blender and go, he said. So now you're giving me, a complete stranger, a gift of this perfectly good blender, I said. My wife was tugging at my arm. Come on, honey, she said. This man's crazy. Let's go. Back in the car, I said, I guess we showed him who's boss. You sure did, my wife said. Even free, that blender was much too expensive. I thought that over for a moment. Didn't Nietzsche say that, I asked, swerving to miss a pig in the road. This is called capital punishment. No one was allowed to know the name of the town executioner, and he wore a mask at all times. If we spotted him doing his errands in town, grocery shopping or whatever, we would follow him and taunt him. Hey, Mr. Executioner, how many of you whacked today? He's not allowed to speak back to us, so we figure we really get under his skin. We don't really dislike him. It's just his job after all. We don't really know who gives him his orders. Some committee probably. Mr. Executioner is married to Mrs. Executioner, and she too must wear a mask at all times. And their children wear masks as well. They don't even know who they are. This is called cunning. I had gotten a nasty bite at the petting zoo earlier that day. On the bus home, I sat next to a little old lady, tiny and stooped, her head bobbing up and down. I don't know why I did this, but I showed her the bite on my hand. She stared at it for a long time. Then she reached out and took my hand in her papery blue-veined hands. She brought my hand closer to her eyes. Her mouth was open just a little, and my heart started to race. I jerked my hand out of her grip just in time. She smiled and showed me her teeth. "They're beautiful," I said. "Brand new," she said. This is called a negative employee situation. The Huntingtons had a live-in maid by the name of Mary. Mary was very religious and prayed a good deal of the time. In fact, as the years went by, Mary pretty much ceased working altogether and prayed all of the time. Mrs. Huntington cooked for her and cleaned her room as well as the rest of the house. Mr. Huntington would never rebuke Mary because he believed her prayers benefited the whole household. The Huntingtons were not themselves religious, but they were superstitious. And when Mary died after a short illness, they hired another Mary, but this one cleaned and scrubbed and vacuumed and dusted and polished and cooked. The Huntingtons were terrified for their lives and discussed plans for killing the new Mary. This is called All Over the Lot. We were at the ball game when a small child came up to me and thwacked me in my private area. He turned and walked away without a single word. I was in horrible pain for a couple of minutes. Then I went looking for the rascal. When I found him, he was holding his mother's hand and looking like the picture of innocent. "Is that your son?" I asked of the lady. She shot me a look that could fry eggs, and then she slapped me really hard. "Mind your own business," she squeaked. The boy grinned up at me. My old tweed vest was in fat. To each I replied, "God, I love this game. I love this game." It's called Young Man with a Ham. I'm watching him from my window. He's clutching the ham as if it were a football everyone wants to steal. He keeps looking over his shoulder and stopping to make sure the ham is secure in his grip. No one's on the street but him. But wait, old Mr. Wilson, who lives down the street from me, has suddenly appeared in his fedora and suspenders and is jogging as best he can after the young man. I go out into the porch to watch. The young man has not yet seen Mr. Wilson. Then, in the last minute, he spots him and starts to run. To my great amazement, Mr. Wilson dives through the air and tackles him. They wrestle and grunt. Mr. Wilson wrenches the ham free, gets away, and starts racing down the street with the ham. Clearly, it's his ham now. This is called the workforce. Do you have adequate oxygen for the job? No? Excuse me, I'm going to have to read that over. Do you have adequate oxen for the job? That would have been a whole nother poem. And I would have gotten so confused. The workforce. Do you have adequate oxen for the job? No, my oxen are inadequate. Well, how many oxen would it take to do an adequate job? I would need 10 more oxen to do the job adequately. I'll see to it if I can get them for you. I'd be obliged if you could do that for me. Certainly. Do you have sufficient fish cakes for the men? We have 50 fish cakes, which is less than sufficient. I'll have them delivered on the morrow. Do you need maps of the mountains and the underworld? We have maps of the mountains, but we lack maps of the underworld. Of course you lack maps of the underworld. There are no maps of the underworld. And besides, you don't want to go there. It's stuffy. I had no intention of going there or anywhere for that matter. It's just that you asked me if I needed maps. Yes, it's my fault. I got carried away. What do you need then? You tell me. We need seeds, we need plows, we need scythes, chickens, pigs, cows, women, buckets. Women? We have no women. You're a sorry lot then. We are a sorry lot, sir. Well, I can't get you women. I assumed as much, sir. What are you going to do without women then? We will suffer, sir, and then we'll die out one by one. Can any of you sing? Yes, sir, we have many fine singers among us. Order them to begin singing immediately. Either women will find you this way or you will die comforted. Meanwhile, busy yourselves with the meaningful task you have set for yourselves. Sir, we will not rest until the babes arrive. This is called long-term memory. I was sitting in the park feeding pigeons when a man came over to me and scrutinized my face right up close. There's a statue of you over there, he said. You should be dead. What did you do to deserve a statue? I've never seen a statue of me, I said. There can't be a statue of me. I've never done anything to deserve a statue, and I'm definitely not dead. Well, go look for yourself. It's you, all right. There's no mistaking that, he said. I got up and walked over where it was. It was me, all right. I looked like I was gazing off into the distance, or the future, like those statues of pioneers. It didn't have my name on it or anything, but it was me. A lady came up to me and said, "You're looking at your own statue. Isn't that against the law or something?" It should be, I said, but this is my first offense. Maybe they'll let me off light. It's against nature, too, she said, and bad manners, I think. I couldn't agree with you more, I said. I'm walking away right now. Sorry. I went back to my bench. The man was sitting there. Maybe you're a war hero. Maybe you died in the war, he said. Never been a soldier, I said. Maybe you founded this town 300 years ago, he said. Well, if I did, I don't remember it now, I said. That's a long time ago, he said. You could have forgot. I went back to feeding the pigeons. Oh, yes. founding the town. It was coming back to me now. It was on a Wednesday. A light rain. My horse slowed. This is called It Happens Like This. I was outside St. Cecilia's rectory smoking a cigarette when a goat appeared beside me. It was mostly black and white with a little reddish brown here and there. When I started to walk away, it followed. I was amused and delighted, but wondered what the laws were on this kind of thing. There's a leash law for dogs, but what about goats? People smiled at me and admired the goat. It's not my goat, I explained. It's the town's goat. I'm just taking my turn, taking care of it. I didn't know we had a goat, one of them said. I wonder when my turn is coming. Soon, I said. Be patient. Your time is coming. The goat stayed by my side. It stopped when I stopped. It looked up at me and I stared into its eyes. I felt he knew everything essential about me. We walked on. A policeman on his beat looked us over. That's a mighty fine goat you got there, he said, stopping to admire. It's the town's goat, I said. His family goes back 300 years with us, I said, from the beginning. The officer leaned forward to touch him, then stopped and looked up at me. Mind if I pat him? He asked. Touching this goat will change your life, I said. It's your decision. He thought real hard for a minute, and then he stood up and said, What's his name? He's called the Prince of Peace, I said. God, this town is like a fairy tale. Everywhere you turn, there's mystery and wonder. And I'm just a child playing cops and robbers forever. Please forgive me if I cry. We forgive you, officer, I said. The goat and I walked on. It was getting dark, and we were beginning to wonder where we would spend the night. This is called Bounden Duty. I got a call from the White House, from the president himself, asking me if I'd do him a personal favor. I liked the president, so I said, Sure, Mr. President, anything you like. Just act like nothing's going on. Act normal. That would mean the world to me. Can you do that, Leon? Why, sure, Mr. President. You've got it. Normal. That's how I'm going to act. I won't let on, even if I'm tortured, I said, immediately regretting that tortured bit. He thanked me several times and hung up. I was dying to tell someone that the president himself called me, but I knew I couldn't. The sudden pressure to act normal was killing me. And what was going on anyway? I didn't know anything was going on. I saw the president on TV yesterday. He was shaking hands with a farmer. What if it wasn't really a farmer? I needed to buy some milk, but suddenly I was afraid to go out. I checked what I had on. I looked, quote, normal to me, but maybe I looked more like I was trying to be normal. That's pretty suspicious. I opened the door and looked around. What was going on? There was a car parked in front of my car that I had never seen before, a car that was trying to look normal. But I wasn't fooled. If you need milk, you have to get milk. Otherwise, people will think something's going on. I got into my car and sped down the road. I could feel those little radar guns popping behind every tree and bush, but apparently they were under orders not to stop me. I ran into Kirsten in the store. "Hey, what's going on, Leon?" she said. She had a very nice smile. I hated to lie to her. "Nothing's going on. Just getting milk for my cat," I said. "I didn't know you had a cat," she said. "I meant to say coffee." "You're right, I don't have a cat. Sometimes I refer to my coffee as my cat. It's just a private joke." "Sorry," I said. "Are you all right?" she asked. "Nothing's going on, Kirsten. I promise you, everything is normal. The president shook hands with a farmer, a real farmer. Is that such a big deal?" "I saw that," she said, "and that man was definitely not a farmer." "Yeah, I know," I said, feeling better. This is called A Sound Like Distant Thunder. I had fallen asleep on the couch with the TV on. Every now and then I would open an eye and see someone get stabbed or eaten by a monster. Once a beautiful woman was taking off her blouse, and then the phone rang. I couldn't tell if it was a TV phone or my own. I sat up, half asleep, and reached for the phone. "Howie?" a woman's voice said. "Is that you? You sound like you were asleep." "I was," I said. I wasn't Howie, but I was in the mood to talk to that woman. "Howie, I miss you. I wish I were in bed with you right now," she said. "I miss you too. I wish you were here with me right now," I said. I hated not knowing her name, and I didn't know if I could call her honey or sweetie or any other endearment. "Why don't you come over right now?" I said. "Oh, you know, I'm in Australia. My work here won't be done for another month. It's just hell being away from you this long," she said. "I love you," I said, and I think I meant it. "You mean the world to me, Howie. I couldn't get through this without knowing you love me. I think of you all the time. I look at your picture every chance I get. It's what gives me strength, that and our brief phone calls. Now go back to sleep and dream of me kissing you and holding you. I have to go now. I love you, Howie," she said and hung up. And though my state may be described as a gladdened stupor, I felt like a Howie. I really did. And I believed in my heart that the nameless, faceless one indentured in Australia really loved me, and that my great love for her gave her strength. I cozied up on the couch and fell into a sweet sleep. But then I heard a lion roar, and I feared for both of our lives. "Howie," she cried, "save me." But I couldn't. I was busy elsewhere, tying my shoe. This is called The Special Guest. Down the chimney came old St. Nick, which was weird because it was noon on a hot July day. He was covered in soot. "Well, this is quite a surprise," I said. "You should get that thing cleaned," he said. "We weren't expecting you at this time of year," I said. "You wouldn't happen to have a beer, would you?" he said. "It's so hot in this suit, you wouldn't believe it." "Sure, I can get you a beer," I said. When I returned, he said, "Where the hell am I, anyway?" I told him, and he looked confused. Do you know what day it is, he asked. I told him, and he looked bewildered. He took a long slug of his beer. I hate to admit it, but I'm not really sure what year it is, he said. I told him, and he thought about that for a long time. Can I have another beer, he asked. When I returned, he said, why am I dressed like this? It's hot out there. You live in the North Pole. You're only supposed to come down here at Christmas, I said. Oh, he said, Mrs. Claus died. I'm lonely up there. I want to live down here in a nice little house like this one. Do you have any money, some savings perhaps, I asked. I'm broke, he said. I gave it all away. I have nothing. You could get a job, I said. I'm too old, and besides, I don't know how to do anything, he said. Well, we have a spare room now that the kids have gone, I said. You could live here and help out with odd jobs. He looked around. Could I have another beer, he asked. I got it for him. I just want to get out of these old clothes and shave this damn beard. It's too hot, he said. He really did look miserable. Well, you can borrow my razor and maybe we can find you some summer clothes at Mr. Biggs in the mall, I said. I'm just skin and bones, he said. There's no meat on me. I haven't eaten in months, maybe years, I don't know, he said. Well, then maybe some of my clothes might fit you, I said. I'd like that, he said. I'd like to be able to walk down the street without people making such a fuss. After another beer, Nick shaved and tried on one of my shirts and a pair of cotton slacks. He was a gaunt old man who stayed in his room most of the time. He seemed to not remember his old life at the pole, so Jill and I never mentioned it. He liked to rake leaves in the fall, I don't know why. Jill knitted him a sweater, and he cried when she gave it to him. Then he kissed her, and I said, that's enough. This is called Of Whom Am I Afraid? I was feeling a little at loose ends, so I went to the farmer's supply store and just strolled up and down the aisles, examining the merchandise, none of which was of any use to me, but the feed sacks and seeds had a calming effect on me. At some point, there was an old grizzled farmer standing next to me, holding a rake. And I said to him, have you ever read much Emily Dickinson? Oh, sure, he said. I reckon I've read all of her poems at least a dozen times. She's a real pistol. I've even gotten into several fights about them with some of my neighbors. One guy said she was too prissy for him. And I said, hell, she's tougher than you'll ever be. When I finished with him, I made him sit down and read the complete poems over again, all 1,775 of them. He finally said, you're right, Clyde, she's tougher than I'll ever be. And he was crying like a baby when he said that. Clyde slapped my cheek and headed toward the counter with his new rake. I bought some ice tongs, which made me surprisingly happy, and for which I had no earthly use. At the motel, this is called the Animists. At the motel, the man said, this is a Christian motel. I've got to see your marriage license. Marriage license, I said. We don't drive around with our marriage license. I don't even know where it is, but it sure isn't in the car. Then you can't stay here. We don't allow heathens, he said. Heathens, I said. You're calling us heathens? The world's full of them, he said. Whether you're among them, I don't know, but I don't take chances. How do we know you're not some kind of child molester or axe murderer, Melissa said. I was proud of her. Show him your tits, I said. Melissa lifted up her sweater and showed him her God-given natural endowment. The old man gawked and stammered, You appear to be Christian. Nope, she said. The left one's an animist, and the right one is too private to even discuss religion. But my guess is that she's an animist too. I like animists, he said. I love animists. They're my favorite. We turned and headed for the door. Dirty old man, I said. You're right, he said. I am a dirty old Christian man. I didn't know that. Thank you, and come back anytime. So I'll close with this poem. This poem is called The Promotion. I was a dog in my former life, a very good dog, and thus I was promoted to a human being. I liked being a dog. I worked for a poor farmer, guarding and herding his sheep. Wolves and coyotes tried to get past me almost every night, and not once did I lose a sheep. The farmer rewarded me with good food from his table. He may have been poor, but he ate well. And his children played with me when they weren't in school or working in the field. I had all the love any dog could hope for. When I got old, they got a new dog, and I trained him in the tricks of the trade. He quickly learned, and the farmer brought me into the house to live with him. I brought the farmer his slippers in the morning, as he was getting old too. I was dying slowly, a little bit at a time. The farmer knew this and would bring the new dog in to visit me from time to time. The new dog would entertain me with his flips and flops and nuzzles. And then one morning I just didn't get up. They gave me a fine burial down by the stream under a shade tree. That was the end of my being a dog. Sometimes I miss it, so I sit by the window and cry. I live in a high-rise that looks out at a bunch of other high-rises. At my job, I work in a cubicle and barely speak to anyone all day. This is my reward for being a good dog. The human wolves don't even see me. They fear me not. Thank you very much.
We'll return for the rest of the event with James Tate in a moment, but first I wanted to tell you about an event coming up with Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah on June 4th. Adjei-Brenyah is the author of the explosive bestseller Chain Gang All-Stars, a powerful dystopian novel set in a depraved prison system, not so far from America's own. Tickets are available now for both in-person and online attendance at lectures.org. And now, more from James Tate.
Thank you, James. Have you ever considered writing funny poems?
I never have. I swear to God, it's never occurred to me. I've never once laughed while I was writing or anything like that. It's too hard. You got to concentrate too much. And you're always trying to figure out what's coming next. And it's actually hard work. I'm not not trying to make it sound like it isn't fun. It's tremendous fun, but it's also hard, and you got to really concentrate. So you don't have any time to laugh. You don't find out it's funny until you stand up in front of people.
So many of the recent poems are about these sort of conversations between people and encounters between strangers. And I'm wondering what about sort of that situation interests you?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Is that true? I'll be darned. Does that interest me? Well, what can I say? I guess so. Of course. I'm obsessed with it.
Let me try something else.
I think we're doing fine.
All right, good. Your poems seem absolutely contemporary. They seem very much of this time, and there aren't easy ways. There aren't easy ways, I think, for people to necessarily see the connections between what you're doing and what people might think of as sort of traditional poetry. Do you see connections, ways in which your poems lead back into older texts?
I'm not thinking about it now or even when I write. No, I don't think I think about that. I think that stuff is just very deeply ingrained. But I will say this, when I very first began to write, it was, well, I shouldn't say when I first began. I was writing really horrible stuff then, of course, but the major breakthrough in my thinking was when I was realizing that all these great poets wrote for their time. And they, and so I thought, well, I guess that's what we're supposed to do, really, is that we're a part of this time. Wake up to that. I don't want to write like, why should I write like a 19th century poet? I'm not one, so. But the other thing you were asking, I think, is just deeply ingrained, and you read so much all your life and all that it's just in there. And I don't know. I don't think consciously about the connection to somebody else's poem.
You talked about things that you don't think about when you're writing poems. What are the things that you're thinking about when you're writing them?
The poem, the piece of paper in front of me. I'm totally focused. I think it's the real secret to writing is just total concentration. I talk to people who say, "Oh, this poem took me 2 years to write or 6 months to write." I think, what are you doing? Get on with it, Focus. Try to focus a little bit. Work on that poem, Don't get out of your chair. No, I'm just totally focused, and I'm practically in another world.
And are you sitting down every day and doing this and trying to write poems?
I'm not, and if I had the luxury of that kind of time, I do have the luxury of a lot of time compared to most people, but I don't have that kind of time. But if I did, I still wouldn't write every day. I like to write a lot. I have found that out. I guess I always have. Most people would say that I've always written a lot, but they don't have any idea what I've been doing recently in the last 4, 5, 6 years. Then I'm seriously writing. So I like to push the limit. I like to feel my brain totally exhausted, and by doing that, I would say I could write 3 to 4 days a week. But you definitely need breaks in there. I think fiction writers really, you can tell me otherwise, but from what I know of fiction writers, they really can write 7 days a week. It's a serious, hard job, going back to that place where you left off the day before and so on. But I can't do it myself. I need some air, need a break, need to get out in the world.
Do you go back and read the poems, right? Do you go back and read your earlier poems? And if so, do you see any kind of change in the kind of poems that you're writing?
I absolutely don't go back. I don't think many poets do. So I'm not saying anything very original, I don't think. I think most poets would claim that they don't look at their older work. I'm not ashamed of it. I don't disown it. I don't even want to insult it, but I have no interest in it. So I live very much in the present and all that. So the other part was, I don't even go around thinking about what relationship my current work has with my former work. I like to think it's very different, but other people would probably say, no, that's you, you can't escape being who you are or something. And they would claim that my work has all the traits that it had before. I don't know that.
And how do you think it's different?
Did I say it was? I didn't hear that part. I mean, obviously, I've gotten very committed to storytelling and narrative and so on, and I like that a lot. I guess I had elements of that always before, but now I've sort of given over to it wholly, and I really love it. And I think there's no limits to the things you can do, You don't have to tell a straight story. You can do this, you can do that, you can do that. But the idea of having a narrative spine to the work I'm pretty committed to right now, and maybe forever, who knows.
Yeah, that's one of the things that strikes me about the more recent poems, is that, in prose you have this clear division between fiction and nonfiction, or we try to have a clear division. And in poetry, we don't have that. And that's some of the pleasure of poetry, is wondering, is this real or is it imagined? But in your work, more recent work, it seems to be more resolved to have a kind of fictional storytelling kind of approach. And I wonder if you think about doing more sort of prose fiction writing.
Not really. I recently did publish a book of stories that are fiction, and I wouldn't call it, I don't know what, very normal stuff. I mean, it's not really normal length. It's most of it's shorter, but it's fiction, and I don't feel any desire to go back to do that. I'm satisfied with this. I like the compression. I don't want to just go on and on. I want it all to happen within a fairly short space, and I hope a lot can happen and does happen in that really compressed space.
I think that one of the things that people wonder about when they read poems like yours and a lot of other contemporary poetry, if you're used to reading more formal poetry, you kind of wonder how poets decide that one line ends and another line starts. And how do you think about those kinds of line endings? Is it about sort of rhythm, or is it just a kind of more intuitive sense of when it needs to turn?
Can it be both? Yeah, it's both. It's intuitive and it's rhythmic.
I think the last question I'll ask you, and you may not notice this about your work, but I think it's hard not to notice, which is that there are a lot of animals in your poems. There are almost more animals, I think, than people in the poems. And sometimes they get the best speaking parts, too.
Smart animals.
And I just wonder, do you have a sense of that when you're writing, that animals keep appearing, and do you have any sense of why?
Yes, I have some sense of them. They appear in my life a lot, and they appear in my mind all the time. I'm constantly seeing bears everywhere. And so I try and resist them in the poems just a little bit, but I don't win. I do not win that battle. They're getting in there all the time, but I do try and resist because I'm aware that they're just.
You even have a great poem about a guy who's driving and suddenly all the animals start jumping out of. And it struck me almost as an ars poetica for you, like trying to fend off all these animals. It's called something like worst case scenario or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, our thanks to James Tate for a wonderful reading.
It was an honor to host James Tate in 2003 and to bring him back to honor his memory on the podcast today. If you enjoyed listening, we welcome you to join us in person or virtually for our season as we hear from poets like Joy Harjo, Victoria Chang, Roger Reeves, Anastasia Renee, and Terrence Hayes. Tickets are available at lectures.org. Thank you to the Seattle Arts and Lectures staff, board, and community, and thanks to all of you for listening. This show would not be possible without you. Our show is produced by Jack Straw Cultural Center with theme music by Daniel Spills. To hear more, subscribe from wherever you get your podcasts, and while you're there, rate and review us 5 stars so that more people can enjoy Sal on Air.